Good morning, everyone. Well, we are on our fourth live Q&A live for Pitchers. I'm really enjoying doing this, and I have some good news. I'm moving houses, and moving houses means that I'm gonna be able to have a proper office in my place. So hopefully the light it's gonna be better, the view it's gonna be better. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Probably it's gonna be from June onwards. So we will have a couple of more weeks with the same place. Today, before people start asking questions, I'm gonna be talking about something that is very common, that many people ask me about. Well, not many people ask me about, indeed. It's something that you will find in a lot of job advertisements on a lot of different places, in a lot of different comments and different posts. So what I'm going to be talking about today, it's about what it means New Zealand experience. It's going to happen to many of you when you apply to jobs online through Seek or through TradeMe, that many recruiters or hiring managers or HR people from different companies, they will ask you for New Zealand experience. They are going to reject your application and they're going to say, thanks for your application, but in this opportunity, we are looking for someone that already has New Zealand work experience. So what it means this? It means that they don't believe that you have what they are after. So it's very common again that you will see that you don't have news, like a lot of comments and posts, and even in the job advertisements that they say that they want someone with New Zealand work experience. So the main reason why this happens, it's because the New Zealand has a lot of candidates applications from all around the world. New Zealand has a lot of immigration. There's a lot of people in New Zealand living in New Zealand that they are coming from different places. They might have come for holidays and then decided to stay. They might came to study, then some people might came to look for a job, and there's a lot of thousands of people applying for jobs from their home countries, and all the time they're going to read or they're going to listen that they need someone with New Zealand work experience. So after many years of listening about this, and many times my client tell me as well, hey, we want someone that already has New Zealand work experience. Or I have heard this from a lot of people that talk to me that say, yeah, I was rejected because they told me that I didn't have New Zealand work experience. So over the last 7 years, I came to a definition from my point of view on what it means New Zealand work experience. I have 4 categories for that. The first one is communication skills. The second one is technical skills. The third is best practices or methodologies. And the fourth is culture fit. So for me, New Zealand work experience means that you have these 4 categories: communication skills, technical skills, best practices, methodologies, and culture fit. So when companies are saying we want with someone with New Zealand work experience, from my point of view, what they mean is that kind of like if someone already has New Zealand work experience, it's kind of like a certification that probably they're going to be able to do fine in that job. So what it means communication skills when it comes to New Zealand work experience? For me, communication skills means that you can communicate, that you can talk with other people in the office. It doesn't mean that you have to have a perfect English or like a native English as a speaker. It just means that you can communicate fluently, that if they ask you to do some task, or if they send you an email, or if they call you over the phone, that you will be able to understand and you will be able to perform that task. That if they try to arrange a meeting or they want you to participate in a meeting, that you can communicate fluently. It has happened to me that many times I do some interviews, and just to get to know a few things, I have to ask the question, twice, or sometimes 3 times, or sometimes even 4 times. And what happens then is when they're giving me the answer, it might take to 5 to 10 minutes to give the answer when that should take them 1 minute. So that is what it means for me, communication skills. So you need to prove them that you have the communication skills. Regardless that you don't have the New Zealand work experience, you do have the communication skills. Again, I'm talking about New Zealand work experience until someone has a question. Please interrupt me and shoot your question. The only reason why I'm choose this topic today is so we have some entertainment in the meantime that someone has a question. So the second thing is technical skills. So again, when companies are saying that they want someone with New Zealand work experience, they want someone that already has the technical skills needed. A lot of people apply for different parts of the world, and that the companies or the hiring managers don't necessarily know if your work experience in your home country it's relevant or not. So in this case, they want to know if you have the specific technical skills, and they want to know if those technical skills are aligned with the ones that are needed here in New Zealand. So I have a couple of questions. I'm going to answer those, and then I'm going to keep going. Hi, a B2 level accomplish that point then? So yes and no. I think I answered a question similar to this one a couple of weeks ago. And what I was talking is that in New Zealand, companies won't go and check your B2 level. They're going to basically read your resume or your CV and see if you have grammar mistakes, if you have misspelling mistakes, and also if what you have written, it makes sense. So that's the way they're going to check if you have good communication skills. That's why always I say that you could have just a YouTube channel with one video or Vimeo video showcasing and introducing yourself, so they can easily check what are your communication skills. So that's a way that you can address that. Cool. So I'm going to go to the next question. Hey, Santi, getting started using Power BI for data analysis. Feeling confident on building my website and portfolio for the end of next month. Cool. Great. Julian, keep going. Again, that's something that you can start doing as well to show your technical skills. I was just talking about the second topic of the 4 topics for New Zealand work experience. I'm going to do a quick recap. Many companies will reject you and they will tell you, we are looking for someone with New Zealand work experience. What means New Zealand work experience? Means good communication skills, means good technical skills, means best practices and culture fit. So regarding technical skills, Julian, that's a very good way to show that you have those technical skills because you are showing something. You can show your GitHub account, you can show the end result with Power BI and when it comes to visualization, and that's a very good way to do it. Fernando, hi, thanks for being with us today. So how much time takes a New Zealand hiring process for a developer? It depends. It depends a lot, but it can go from 1 week to 2 months. Usually the recruitment process in New Zealand consists on a first interview just to get to know the person, to understand like their communication skills, why they're wanting to come to New Zealand or why they're in New Zealand if you're from overseas. Like they want to check that you are really wanting to stay in the country. They don't want to hire someone. Like there's a lot of work and holidays. People that come here with that visa and that sometimes like they're not sure. So that's what it is about the first meeting. Second meeting, usually it's a technical test. They will ask you to do a coding challenge or they will give you a small task for you to perform. If that goes well, usually they call you to talk about the task that you have done, why you have done it that way, which other ways could you have done it, and things like that. So that's a third interview. Then there is a fourth interview, sometimes with the rest of the team or with the CEO or with the manager of the manager. So usually it's 4 interviews. And again, it depends the company, but it can go from 1 week to 2 months. So I think it depends on the company. Like in everywhere, cool, it's very difficult to buy your own house in New Zealand. I understand that the prices are very expensive because millionaires bought too many properties. So Nicolas, that's a pretty hot topic currently in New Zealand. You're right. So let me share some experiences of different people I know in New Zealand, and even in my experience, because I'm moving houses because my house has been sold. So yeah, it's houses in New Zealand are very expensive. What it means very expensive, you won't be able to find a decent house for less than probably $800,000 New Zealand dollars. So most houses are around the 1 million New Zealand dollars. So that's expensive. Said that, I know many people that has bought their houses in the last few years. So I came to New Zealand 7 years ago, and in the last few years, I have seen people buying houses every year. And even now that the houses are super expensive, I know people that they are buying a house. So it's still a possibility. It's expensive, it's hard, but it's still a possibility. My house, that it's not a big thing, but yes, it has a huge section, like a big piece of land, was sold for more than $1,900,000, so almost $2 million. And why is that? Because of the size of the land where I live. It's for New Zealand, it's quite big. It's 850 square meters. So that's quite a lot for New Zealand. So cool. So New Zealand work experience, that's usually something they use a lot to reject applications. And from my point of view, it's a way to certify if that person is going to be able to do the job or not. And what I have been seeing over the years is that it's a matter of having certain skills, because I have seen many people that they get a job without New Zealand experience. Of course, like all the immigrants that came to the country, over the years, at some point in time, they got a job. But usually it's the first job, the one that is the hardest to get. After you have your first job, then it becomes easier. If it's the same job, if it's going to be a promotion, then it's a different story. But that happens usually everywhere. So I talk about communication skills. I talked about technical skills. The other thing is best practices. As a software developer, they will probably want you to know how to work with Agile, with Scrum, with different methodologies that comes to Agile in all the different ways. So it's very important that you know the jargon when you're applying for jobs. Even though if you are doing something in your country that was kind of like a stand-up meeting every morning and you are not using Agile, but yes, you are doing a stand-up meeting, it's very important that you communicate that in a way that they understand what that means. So instead of saying, yeah, we had a meeting every morning to arrange tasks and organize the work, that you might be able to say, hey, yeah, every morning we are doing a stand-up meeting, as Scrum says to do, things like that. You want to share with the other person on the other side that you know those kind of things, depending on the job that you are doing. So yeah, again, important to share with them through your resume, through your CV, that you know the best practices. So for people that are joining, New Zealand work experience, that's the topic I'm talking about today, at the same time that I'm answering questions. A lot of people get rejected because they don't have New Zealand work experience. It's very frustrating for many people because it's like the chicken or the egg. If you don't give me the opportunity to have New Zealand work experience, then how am I gonna be able to have New Zealand work experience? And the important thing here, it's not to get disappointed and get frustrated and say that doesn't make sense, but it's how you can prove them that you're going to be able to do the job, regardless if you have New Zealand work experience or not. So the 4 topics I mentioned are communication skills. Show them that you have good communication skills. Certifications are okay, but usually they don't use that in a way to check if you have communication skills or not. There are many people that they require to do an IELTS certifications. That is the most popular in New Zealand. And even though when they put that in their resume, even myself, I don't use that as a way that I say it's like, that person can communicate well, because many times it's not about your pronunciation, many times it's not about your grammar, many times it's about how fluently and easily you can make yourself understood and how you can understand others. So even though your pronunciation might not be the best, if people understand you, that's good enough. If your grammar, it's not amazing, but people can understand what you are doing, that's all good. The problem is if you have a past tense mistake or a present tense mistake and you understand that was something that should be done, but indeed it needs to be done in the future and you don't do it because of that, then that's a problem. When it comes to technical skills, if you know how to write code with C# or Java, but you are not doing it in a way that they do it in that company, like let's say clean code, then doesn't matter that you have Java. The important thing is that you can show them that you write clean code and you document your code and you comment your code for other people to understand it. That's another example of how you can prove them that you have the technical skills they want. Best practices is what I was just talking about, that you might not have been using properly Scrum in your previous jobs, but you are doing something that was pretty similar. And I have gone through this with different people, that they knew how to do the job, they were able to do the job, but they never used Scrum. And when they were going to the interviews, they were rejected. But at the end of the day, they could do the job. So sometimes it's a matter of using the language the other person is used to use, and sometimes that comes with the jargon, that comes with the best practices, and sometimes it's easier to describe that you know how to do those practices by using the words. Again, an easy example, silly example is stand-up meeting. And for last, the culture fit. Many companies in New Zealand talk about culture fit. Many companies say that it's more important the culture fit than the technical skills. What it means, culture fit, it can mean many different ways, but what I have seen is that depending on the company, culture fit means that, and some companies, they say it even in this way: don't be an asshole, don't be an idiot, don't be full of yourself, don't be arrogant. So these are kind of things that companies look for in people. Culture fit. Some other companies, or most companies in New Zealand, they want people that are proactive, that are bringing ideas to the table, that are thinking out of the box. So that is culture fit as well. If you're gonna be shy, if you're gonna be not participating too much in an interview or things like that, then you might not be the right culture fit for them. So it's not bad to be shy, but yes, of course, you will have to get a little bit out of your comfort zone to be able to communicate. Again, everything is about communication. But when it comes to culture fit, it means that. Many times it means as well that some companies, they want people to get involved with the different people of the business. In New Zealand, it's very common that every Friday around 4 o'clock, they're going to drink beers in the office. Like many companies in New Zealand have their fridge in the office and they have beers. So when it comes Friday 4 p.m., they stop working and they have a beer all together. And what means culture fit? Means, in that case, it means that instead of you staying working or going home, what they really want is for you to be part of the business, part of the team, part of the family, and have a beer with them, get to know each other. That's very, very common in New Zealand. Many companies do. And if you're not going to be participating on that, again, that doesn't mean that you can't do the job, but they will prefer someone that wants to be part of that company, of that family, of that business and team. So yeah, it's a mix of all those things. Some things are very hard to prove with your resume or with your CV. So that's why I always encourage you guys to talk to people, get in touch with other colleagues in the companies working in New Zealand, so they can get to know you. And when it comes about technical skills, don't just talk about the tech specifically, but how you use that technology. That will show them that you know the technical skills. The same with best practices, the same with communication skills. Don't just say, I'm a developer working with Java or C# or whatever the programming language, building new features, fixing existing features and maintaining existing features. Tell them a little bit more about that. Tell them about how is your team. Like, we are a team of 6. We are 3 developers working on the back end. In the back end, there are 2 developers working in the front end, and there's 1 tester. Every morning we do stand-up meetings, and we are developing a new feature for the business. Blah 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 blah. Like, explain how the team is conformed, explain what are your responsibilities, explain what are the goals to be achieved, and what are the challenges and how you are sorting those challenges. That's a way that you can communicate, that you have the communication skills, more than showcasing your certification level. How do you think the process to get a job in New Zealand will change with the changes for this mid of this year? They will only reduce the type of work visa available. So, good news is that New Zealand is now open to Australia. So they have a bubble between New Zealand and Australia. So that means that New Zealanders can fly to Australia and Australians can fly to New Zealand. And even though for people living in other countries this means nothing, from my point of view, it means quite a thing. Because it means that they are starting to get ready to, at some point in time, open the New Zealand borders. I have no clue when that's going to happen, Julian. To be honest, I think nobody knows. I don't even think that the current government knows when they're going to open the borders. But from my point of view, as I just said, the good news is that they are starting. They're starting this with Australia. They are starting this with some island from the Pacific. So this is a starting point. Again, in the meantime, for me, the best thing that everyone can do is working on these 4 things that I talked about. New Zealand work experience. You will get a lot of these, even if you are applying from overseas in a few months' time or even next year. This thing will come a lot, like, I don't have New Zealand work experience. My client wants someone with New Zealand work experience. Or companies might not tell you this, but they will reject you because of this. New Zealand attracts a lot of people all around the world, people that are here already, or people that are in their home countries. So every time they're reading a resume or a CV where they don't have a New Zealand phone number or they don't have a New Zealand address, the name, it's not a New Zealand name or an English name, that makes it harder for them to find out if it's going to be worth their time to talk to that person. So in order to avoid for them to tell you that you don't have New Zealand work experience, the best thing you can do is, in your CV, show them that you have the communication skills. In your CV, show them that you have the technical skills. in a way that they can understand that you are doing it in the way they expect it. And that's why I do interviews with people working here in New Zealand in my YouTube channel, so they can talk about what it is that they expect. For when you apply, you already know what they're expecting. Show them that you have used the best practices or the practices that are using in their companies, and that you have a good culture fit, that you're going to be able to communicate, that you're going to be able to be part of the team, be part of the family. Most of the economy is run by small to medium-sized companies in New Zealand, so that means that there are a lot of family businesses. And I even know people here. Yesterday I played football with this guy, an Argentinian guy who works as a IT support engineer, I think it is. And even their boss, like the boss of this guy, lent his weekend house for him to spend New Year with his family. So that's why the culture fit, it's important for them, because at the end of the day they might even lend you their house for you to spend New Year. And this is not like a few weeks ago I went to have a coffee with a guy who we studied together English when I first came to New Zealand. This guy is from Kazakhstan, and he was telling me that when he moved to Christchurch, a city in South Island, his boss invited him to spend Christmas and New Year with them. So people are very friendly here and very welcoming if you're gonna be willing to be part of what the country is as well. I'm not saying that you should be doing things that you don't like or enjoy, but yes, culture fit, it means learning about New Zealand, learning about the different cultures that live here together in New Zealand. Like there's a lot of people from India, from China, from other countries from Asia, like I don't know, Philippines, or Malaysia or Vietnam. There are people from Europe, from Latin America, from South America, from the United States, Canada, some people from Africa, so like Eastern Europe as well, like Ukraine or Russia, people from all different parts of the world. And what New Zealanders value, it's people that they bring their culture, but they also try to be part of New Zealand culture. Rugby is a big thing here, so they don't expect you to be a rugby fan, but it would be nice if you know that the All Blacks played last weekend and they won. It's a matter of being genuine and being interested in the other side as well, and it's not all about you. So if there are more questions, I'm more than happy to answer all the questions. If not, I'm gonna, for the last time, I'm gonna share a little bit for people that might have joined in the last few minutes. New Zealand work experience. That's something that you will read and you would listen a lot when you apply to jobs. They will say, you don't have New Zealand experience, so we can't consider you for this job. So in the last 7 years, I have came to a conclusion that New Zealand work experience means for them that you have good communication skills, good technical skills, good best practices, methodologies, and you're going to be a good culture fit. So that is what it is, New Zealand work experience. It's like a tag that they have put together for people that don't have New Zealand experience. So what that means that they don't know, and they might not want to invest time in getting to know you to check if you have good communication skills, good technical skills, good best practices, and culture fit. So that's pretty much it. And that's why it's very important that every time that you do a job application, you tailor your resume or your CV to match exactly what that job description is saying. I'm going to give just one example for this. I'm going to talk about this on my next Q&A. Is if you're a full stack developer working with Java in the backend and React in the front end, and the job description talks about a full stack developer that's going to be working 60% of the time with backend with Java and 40% of the time with React in the front end, and your CV talks more about the front end than the back end, they are probably maybe not consider you as the #1 candidate because you are talking more about the front end than the back end. And this job description says that 60% of the job, it's more back end, is back end and not front end. So if you change your resume to talk more about of the back end than the front end, even though if you're more experienced in front end, you want to talk more about your skills of the back end, not the front end. So that's another way of showing them that you have that New Zealand work experience that they're after, that you can identify what are their needs and how you're going to be able to help them with their needs. Once you go to the meeting, you can ask a lot of questions. I highly recommend you that if you're going to have an interview, prepare the questions when it comes to the meeting and you are there and you have been answering a lot of questions and it's a stressful moment with a lot of tension. They might ask you, do you have questions? And because you just want to relax and leave, you might not give them any question, and that doesn't look well. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about these topics in my next Q&A next Monday about the resume and a little bit more about interviews. Hope this thing that I have shared today was useful. And see you next time. So, yep, I have no more questions. Thank you very much for all of you guys being here with me today. You can always send me a LinkedIn message or leave a comment on YouTube. Usually I answer a lot of questions on regards to skills, job interview process, etc. I don't answer questions about immigration more than things that are very high level because I'm not allowed to, as I am not an immigration advisor, and also things are changing all the time, so I don't have like exact information. But yes, there are a few things that I might be able to answer. The best thing you can do in order to get in New Zealand and have a work visa or a visa to work, it's getting a job. So focus on that. The visa will come later. But anyway, thank you very much. Have a great week and see you next week. Bye-bye.